What's going on, guys? My name is Komar and welcome back to our Dream Home Renovation series, where we take this house and completely transform it from start to finish to look like this. We touch every square inch of this house, from electrical, plumbing, framing. Everything is going to be brand new. It's been a while since we released a video in this series because we've been constantly working on this house, trying to get moved back in. But now we can get you guys caught up, starting with our front porch. We're going to be doing this in sections because the front stoop has to be poured separately from the sidewalk, and I'll explain that a little bit later in the video. But now we got to get the jackhammer out and bust this thing out. And guess what? I've never used the jackhammer before, so this should be fun. Welcome to the Komar project. All right, so this is what our sidewalk looks like now, and you can see that it's cracked, it's discolored, but more importantly, it's sagging in a few sections that makes it unsafe. Plus, I think dropping a wall on it definitely didn't help. So I figured it's a bit past the repair point and it needs to come out. All right, guys, so that jackhammer is a lot of fun to use. It is labor intensive. So get ready for your arms to hurt. But we got all this concrete busted up, so it's ready, or this area is ready to get poured. It just needs to get cleaned up. My brick guy has been by. He finished the front facade of the house, so we can actually take the concrete and bring it right up to our house. There is one thing that I need to do before I can actually start forming, and that's to pour a trench foundation for a post. So we have a post that's gonna hold our porch roof, and that needs to sit on something, and our architect drew a foundation, so we're gonna do a trench. Time to bring in the heavy equipment, and the reason we're going with a trench foundation instead of a traditional foundation is because of the cost. It's way cheaper just to dig a trench and use the compacted ground around it as the form instead of having to excavate the entire area and backfill. Now obviously this only works if you don't have to seal coat the foundation or do any drainage around it. But since this is just for a front porch, this is going to work great. All right, so we got our front stoop all marked out everywhere we're gonna be framing, and we're ready to start excavating. But before we do that, I wanna show you guys what we're gonna be using for our sub base. So this stuff is recycled concrete. So it's crushed, recycled concrete with dirt, and once this is packed in, it pretty much becomes like concrete. A lot of people use it in their driveways, but we're gonna be using it for our base right before we pour. All right, so after getting everything marked out on the porch, my buddy Francisco got to work on excavating that trench. And you're probably wondering why we didn't use the heavy equipment to remove the front stoop when we used it on the sidewalk. And well, that has a lot to do with me just being worried that the front porch and that foundation that's holding it is pinned to the existing foundation of the house with rebar, or a unexpected wing wall that we didn't know about that was supporting the porch and the big brick wall that we took down. And that's just one of those things that you deal with renovations, the unknown factor, right? That wing wall that we just exposed is now just going to become part of our trench foundation. Now that we have our trench excavated, the porch and sidewalk marked out, we can start forming everything. Because the porch has a step up from the sidewalk and is 11 inches above grade, we're going to be using a 2x12 to set it up and a 2x8 to attach where our step is going to be. This is going to give us an ideal 7¼ inches that we're looking for, which is your typical step height. It's important that it's connected in a way that can be removed later without disturbing the rest of the form. This is why the guys are using a scrap piece of wood to nail the two sections together. Later we can take that 2x8 off and work on the step without having to remove the entire form. And lots of bracing, lots and lots of bracing. There's going to be a whole lot of concrete pushing on that form, so make sure it doesn't move. Lots of bracing. And with that all framed in, we can start working on the sidewalk form. We bounced the idea around of having a straight or a curved walkway. And I figured since everything in this house has a sharp corner and no soft edges, that this is going to be a nice touch to bring a little curviness to the exterior. So a curved walkway we're going with. For the form, the guys are using a standard 1x that's ripped to 4 inches on the straight section and a piece of 1/2-inch plywood for the curve. This way you can bend it to pretty much any shape you want. Now our radius is not that dramatic, so 1/2-inch plywood is just fine, but if you wanted something more dramatic, you can go with a 1/4 inch or even an 1/8 inch plywood and double it up. Just know that the thinner you go, the more bracing it's going to require to keep it in place. Then we added 4 inches of regular gravel that we had left over from a previous project, compact it with a walk-behind plate compactor, and we're ready for our pre-pour inspection. Past inspection. See this? Look, what does that say?
Approved.
Approved.
Hello? Bueno.
He's busy.
Yeah. He's
got work to do. All right, so we are all framed up and we're almost ready to pour. The only thing we have left is actually pin the foundation to our existing. The guys are going to drill it out and then we pour. All right, so it's early the next morning. The concrete truck is here and we're going to set this up. We're gonna start pouring. All right, so the truck is here, but right before we pour, I also wanted to install a rubber membrane between the framing of the house and the concrete slab. Even though we have house wrap that goes all the way down, I also want to create a bigger barrier to protect our sheathing, or the framing of the house. Even though the slab is going to be partially under a roof, it's still going to absorb rainwater and snow and make its way up to the house. So throwing up a thicker membrane will just ensure that that wood never gets saturated from our slab. All right, so we let that concrete truck rip and start filling that trench. And I'm a big fan of just watching how that concrete just kind of flows around the corners. So I kind of stood there watching the guys do all the work and filling that trench in. And then before you knew it, we were ready to start pouring the porch section of this pour. So Francisco got on his booties, dropped a wire mesh down to further reinforce that concrete, and started maneuvering all that concrete around with a push trowel, and then this happened. Not enough concrete. Sometimes even the pros make oopsies, you know?
Sorry guys, I don't think they sent us 4 yards, so
We don't know if it was...
I'm still the best. I'm the best.
We need more concrete. So the plan now is to finish one side of it, trowel it out, remove the forms, and then by the time the truck comes back, pour the other half. So what I think happened is we might have excavated it a little bit deeper than we had to for that trench. Where we live, we need to be below 42 inches to make our frost line. And I think maybe Francisco got a little zealous with the excavator and just went a little deeper than needed to. But that's okay. That gave us a chance to level out the first half, get a good flow on it, and before you knew it, the concrete truck was back and we could finish pouring the other side. And you know what? This was actually really nice doing it this way because the guys were not all rushing trying to get everything done, and it gave them an opportunity to teach me a few hand and arm signals that I was not aware of.
Raise it up, Tommy. Raise it up, raise it up. Good. Yeah. Go forward. Finger, not this. Finger. Forward. Watch yourself. Watch where you're walking. Unlock, thumbs to unlock.
Okay, how do you unlock?
Unlock, unlock, unlock.
Unlock, okay.
Always stay on the driver's side. You're mobile with the driver.
Okay.
Okay? Yep. You tell them turn that way.
Complicated.
There you go. Now move the shit that way.
This, you got this, and you got this.
We're doing, but we got to hold something. We can't both hands.
You guys are,
Hey, I'm controlling that guy. Hey, come on back here. Left, left. Right, right.
You know, these are the types of moments that I really enjoy and the type of people that I love being around. People that work hard, but also find time to enjoy it and have a little bit of fun, right?
Cut it out.
So after my interesting lesson, we realized that we had more concrete than we needed for our stoop again. So no big deal. We put it in our sidewalk form. The truck went back to get another load, and the guys had a chance to start the finishing process on the porch. After getting a first smoothing pass with the trowel, we needed to start breaking the edges with a edge trowel. And this edging trowel that you see me holding here is nothing more than a flat surface with a rounded edge. And what that does is it puts that nice little curve on sidewalks that you always see on the edges, right? And you definitely want to do this first before anything else, because once that concrete starts setting, it's really hard to get that smooth edge. So you kind of want to wait for that perfect moment where it's set, but it's not too viscous. You kind of want to test it out as the concrete is curing, because you definitely don't want to get past that point and end up with hard edges. And then we also want to put in a control joint down the middle. We're going to be doing two different types of joints on this project, control and expansion joints. And I'll explain both of them a little bit later in this video. But now we need to start taking the forms off so that we can start working on the sides of our porch before the concrete starts setting up too much. It's been about 4 hours since we poured our first side, and now the concrete is hard enough where it will remain intact once we remove the forms, but still soft enough where we can trowel the seam of the two boards and smooth all the sides out. Obviously, the porch slab side will be visible, so a little bit extra floating is required here, and this is why we pour in two sections. You want to be able to smooth out that riser for the step without the sidewalk getting in the way, and also brush that riser so that that step is going to match the finish of your porch. For porches, sidewalks, and even driveways, I wouldn't recommend a smooth finish like you have in your basement or your garage. Having a brushed finish on your sidewalk, it looks great, but more importantly, it's going to keep you from slipping the very first time rain hits it. All right, so this concrete that we're pouring is 4,000 PSI, and it does have fiber mesh in it. And I'm still putting in mesh wiring in here because I just don't trust fiber mesh. We did the same thing with our pool. We didn't put any reinforcements, and it's cracking all over the place. So just to be sure, we're gonna have the guys put a little bit of wire in there to make sure that this thing never cracks, or hopefully doesn't crack and cracks only where it's supposed to. When I say crack where it's supposed to, I'm referring to control joints and expansion joints. Even though you can walk on most concrete slabs the very next day, it takes about 30 days for it to fully cure. And during that curing time, it's going to go through a shrinking stage where the control joint helps to prevent cracking and damage to the surface of your concrete. And an expansion joint is exactly what it sounds like. During the seasons, concrete undergoes expansion and contraction due to weather changes, and the expansion joint will typically have some sort of flexible filler material like cork, rubber, foam, or in our case, asphalt impregnated fiberboard that you can see Francisco nailing to our porch. This is where the sidewalk will connect to our porch and will allow it to expand and contract freely without affecting the larger slab, and hopefully preventing any cracking in the future. Once we got all the concrete into the form for the sidewalk, it's always a good idea to use a hand tamper on it to help remove any air pockets and smooth out any clumpy gaps or any imperfections that you may have in your concrete surface. If you ever did a small pour and vibrated the form with like a sawzall or even a hammer to fill all the voids, well, it's kind of the same process except for a large form. Okay, now comes the satisfying part, smoothing out this concrete. But this does take a few extra steps just to get it right. First, the guys hand troweled the concrete to remove all the marks made by the tamper, and then went through and ran a large float to smooth it even further. And at the end of 2 passes with it, it looked something like this. Still some work to be done to it, but now the second part of that porch slab is starting to set enough for the guys to be able to remove the forms and smooth those sides out as well. So it's kind of a juggling act going back and forth between the 2 slabs. Back at the sidewalk, the guys ran another pass with the float and then can start breaking the edges with the edge trowel just like on the porch. The process between them is pretty much the same, even with the control joints. The only difference is the expansion joint, and that's what you're seeing here. We're trying to separate the asphalt impregnated fiberboard that we installed between the 2 of them so that when the sidewalk wants to shift, or even the porch if it wants to shift, it doesn't affect the other one. Other than that, the edging is pretty much the same all the way across the board. The only difference with the control joints here that we have is we're putting them in every 4 feet to hopefully help prevent any cracking down the road.
Francisco from Jalisco.
Can I put my name in it?
Yeah.
So this has your approval.
Yeah.
Francisco, approval by Francisco
Yeah,
from
this
Jalisco.
is a nice design. Not like, you know, I don't want to say it.
Oh, buddy.
All right, so now we have all of our control joints put in, and now we're left with those undesirable lines from the joint tool. So a few more passes with our float tool to smooth everything out again. But now you might be thinking to yourself that we just ruined our control joints by floating over them. Well, that's because I have a challenge for my new friend. All right, so my buddy Francisco, aka Isco from Jalisco, has been saying he's the greatest.
I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. The best.
The greatest concrete finisher this side of the Mississippi. But today we're gonna put his skills to the test, and you're gonna do a California finish on me, right?
Yep.
Or on my concrete, not on me.
No, not on you. On the concrete.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Okay.
So a California finish is just a design feature on concrete where you brush the entire concrete slab nice and even, and then you use a edging tool to create a smooth border around each section. This doesn't do anything to it structurally, and it just looks a little bit cooler in my opinion. And I gotta give it to Francisco. He really is the best.
They call me the beast because I'm the best.
All right, guys, so that is it. We got a front porch and a pretty cool sidewalk. I love the California finish on it. It just gives it a little bit more of a oomph to it, right? It's really cool. Now, obviously, we still have a whole lot of landscaping that we need to do around here, but the next video is going to be building this roof. You kind of see the post out of the corner of the screen, but I don't want to give it away because it's really, really cool. There is a gutter system to handle all the water off of there as well, and our beautiful front door is protected. So make sure you guys are subscribed because I definitely don't want you guys missing any of the outside and especially the inside stuff. The house turned out really great and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this experience. I'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Yeah, he think it's better. Yep.
Concrete finisher this side of the Mississippi. And we're gonna actually
Yeah.
wait. Well,
Yeah. Get your hands out of your pocket.
camera. Camera.